Deep within the consciousness of our own minds rests a story that we're all too familiar with. It's a story that connects us, but not in the way that you might be expecting. It's a story about how we're failures, about how we'll never amount to anything, how we'll never be the person we want to be, or that trying new things is a waste of our time. The story is more specific than that, but broadly speaking, we all have this negative self-story that we occasionally read to ourselves that puts us into a state of despair or doubt about our future. It paralyzes us into inaction and ultimately gets us to give up on our goals and aspirations if it gets to that point. Normally, a lot of people respond to this doubt or hesitation with carefully crafted strategies or moving speeches that help us overcome those hurdles. Plenty of them are from self-help gurus who believe that these are nothing more than inconvenient obstacles for us to crush, dominate, and overcome. But the problem is that they're not that great. Foregoing your own emotions and just hustle through regardless of your own feelings can blindside you from other issues that you might be dealing with. Not to mention, it doesn't make you better at handling that emotion if it ever comes back up again, which it will inevitably will.
I am inevitable.
Similarly, very specific strategies can neglect nuance and context. For example, one solution that I read was to do something that you would typically do, but naked. If this activity is something that you would normally be doing in public, like going for a walk, that is not really something that you can readily do. The point is that these solutions suck, and they often make matters worse rather than improving them. So in light of all that, here is a completely different approach and take to this problem. It's a solution that has helped me break through my own self-doubt and ultimately made me into a more confident individual in myself, my abilities, and is directly responsible for how I ended up where I am right now. Which really isn't saying all that much considering my own circumstances and situation right now, but it's a lot better than where I was before. So let's talk about this. Here is exactly what I did. To begin, it's important that you reframe your relationship with your emotions. A lot of self-help gurus tend to frame our emotions as good and bad, and that you want more of the good stuff, and as little as possible of the bad, to the point where it shouldn't even exist. It leads to this binary thinking where whenever we experience something bad, we have to purge it immediately from our system, or at the very least consider it as a fatal flaw to our own existence and to our own identity, and it's a problem that needs to get fixed. This is the biggest mistake in a lot of self-help because it creates this unhealthy obsession with dealing with this problem and that we're broken and that we need fixing. When the reality is that we're going to be living with this whether we like it or not.
Both is good.
We're all beings that are capable of thought, and there are always going to be those times where we question whether we're doing the right thing or whether this is the right path for us to take. The specter of uncertainty is something that we all have to contend with for the rest of our lives.
You blew it!
And so coming to terms with all of that makes what I'll be telling you next a lot easier to handle, because the end goal here isn't to remove negativity entirely from your body and to never experience that. It's to make it more useful for us, rather than a constant active barrier to our growth. It's supposed to be more of a mentor and a check for ourselves to keep us real and authentic.
Both is good.
And if you approach this problem with this same kind of notion, the same kind of idea of working with yourself, with your own negativity, you'll find it a lot easier to progress and to not experience these negative thought loops as strongly as you might be experiencing them. And you might be able to make a lot of progress in your own resolutions and goals, especially at this point in time, because normally a lot of people tend to give up their resolutions and goals a month into the new year. So let's dive in. Behind every story, we all have a root problem that triggers the negative thoughts in the first place, and figuring that out is naturally the very first thing that you want to be doing. Fortunately, this step is not as difficult as even a quick self-reflective session should get you to figure out why you think that way. Past trauma, a certain belief that you uphold, or just a bad experience that you've repressed are all examples of root problems that have created this negative thought loop and keep us going through it. This is in conjunction to secondary elements that reinforce this belief and this thought loop that we have, such as our environment, who we spend time with, and other habits that reinforce all of this.
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
But what is important right now is to know exactly what that root cause is and for us to drag it out. Dragging it out is really the hard part here, as this is the overall narrative that we've been providing for ourselves and convincing ourselves over and over and over again. One does not simply get over it or suppress it. You have to drag it out. But this is a way to challenge our narratives, and the next steps that I'm going to be talking about will help us with dealing with that. One method that I find that is particularly potent is to stop feeding the story and instead form a new one that you tell yourself. And I have a trick that can help with us changing our thinking around to easing ourselves into that new narrative for ourselves. When I was about 2 years into writing, I asked myself a question that a lot of us ask about our own career choices. Did I make the right one? Should I actually give up on this? At the time, I was writing every single day, and I had a burning passion for writing. But that passion wasn't translating to profits of any kind. I was running some ads on my website, and all that amounted to were mere pennies that I was making every single month. Hardly any kind of noteworthy achievement whatsoever. I looked at that and used that as an excuse that maybe this writing stuff really wasn't working for me. What changed was when I actually paused and I looked at what I achieved over the course of my writing career at that point. And it all started with just asking myself a question of what did I actually achieve at this point? Because yes, I was writing quite a lot, but what was also true was the fact that my writing wasn't all that great, and I kept to my own little bubble. I was writing for 2 years and I never spoke to another writer. I didn't bother about networking with anyone, as I was convinced that my banger articles were fine enough and that they were and that they would be able to get some clients eventually. I also had more of a competitive complex to it, and I thought that all the other writers were my competition. So why in the world should I be talking to them when they're trying to get more of the pie that I'm trying to get a hold of? I created ultimately a me versus them kind of mindset that wasn't at all healthy for me, and it culminated into that question that I just talked about. What have I actually accomplished to warrant whether I should be giving up this career in the first place? Because at the end of the day, the second question revealed the true nature of why that question came to be, and why this story and our negative thought loops can often be very ridiculous. Because this question ultimately revealed to me that I was quitting before I even started my career. When you think about your own negative thought loops and what you've actually achieved, some of that negative story can seem utterly ridiculous. And asking yourself questions that can poke holes within that theory is just one of the ways that you can disable the negativity and break out of it. What I think also helps with reinforcing this specific strategy is simply being kinder to ourselves, while accepting that part of ourselves. Like I said at the very start, negative thoughts are going to happen and you shouldn't strive to eliminate them entirely. In fact, they keep us real and authentic to some extent. What we should be changing is our behavior and the relationship that we have with our own negative thoughts. And I think giving us that bit of self-compassion can really make a difference in that. It helps us to stop overthinking and overcommitting to those negative loops that so many of us normally indulge in. Beyond that, combining that with that counter-narrative that I was just talking about, it could be a source of brief motivation for us to prove ourselves wrong about something and to turn our thinking around and being more optimistic about our own hopes and dreams and aspirations and our efforts towards those. After all, I've been writing for over a decade at this point, and while I'm not incredibly wealthy from this career, I'm glad that I started it in the first place and that I've continued to stick out for this long because it has taught me a lot of valuable skills and has helped me grow as an individual. I'm very thankful for this experience, and now that I'm pushing myself to get out and reach out to new people and network, it's only becoming more fulfilling for me to indulge in this and to try to expand my own writing career and even this whole project as well. Overall, self-compassion gives us a chance to find all of these silver linings and therefore find more reasons and compelling arguments to continue doing what we're currently doing. It removes more reason to use negative thought loops and throws a wrench into the reinforcement tendencies that we tend to use, and help us actively look for improvements to our own problems rather than mulling over and ruminating over just how bad certain things are. We're growing and changing as a result of that, and that is really what's important here. From what I've been able to gather, and from my own personal experiences, the biggest thing that we need to do in order to deal with our negative thought loops is to be approaching these with a calm and collected mindset and to look at our negative thoughts with more rationale than we initially give it. How you do that can range from the methods I mentioned earlier, but there are plenty of other ways that you can be approaching these problems. From mindfulness practices to breathing exercise, gratitude journaling, and being present with yourself, getting yourself in the right environment to tackle these issues is extensive. And by tacking on self-reflective strategies, just by simply asking yourself some questions, you can deal with this problem in however way that you really want to be dealing with this. So if this strategy doesn't work for some reason, keep trying other methods to help calm yourself and approach this problem with more logic and rationale. I have no doubt that even if you haven't gotten that far, or even made a good honest attempt at your goals and aspirations, you can find some silver linings in your own experiences and in your own life to just give something a shot, or to try approaching a problem from a different angle, like similar to what I have done with my own writing. All that you have to do is really just try to find it, and I have no doubt that you will do that as long as you keep pushing yourself to try to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching the entirety of this video. It would really mean a lot to me if you left a like on this video, and also subscribe to my channel for more content in the future. I love you guys.